Hello, Mark Town is my name. I'm the CEO of RSPCA Queensland. And first of all, I'd love to thank you for the support you've given RSPCA. As a very special supporter, you're now part of our behind-the-scenes tour here at our facilities. You'll get to see exactly what we do and how your support helps save lives every day. Michael Beattie, we all know, has been here over 10 years, knows all the ins and outs, everything we do here at RSPCA, all our staff and volunteers, and how we save lives. So please join Michael on this tour. You'll also get to learn about Bronson. Bronson was a very special German Shepherd. He came to us in very bad circumstances, but then he was saved by Anne, his adopted mum, and certainly lived a great life. You'll learn about Bronson's wish and the club and the very special invitation to be part of that club and how you can help. Thanks again and enjoy the tour.
You know, there's two things that people say to you when they find out you work for the RSPCA. They'll either say, "Oh, you must have the best job in the world. You're surrounded by all those wonderful animals." Or, alternatively, they'll say, "How do you put up with it? It must be absolutely miserable. You're surrounded by all that neglect and suffering." Well, I can honestly tell you that the good far, far outweighs the bad. And Bronson, of course, well, in the end, he was one of the good stories. And it's here at our domestic veterinary hospital that the journey for most of the animals actually begins.
Bronson was dumped at an industrial site and 2 security guards found him. He was in a very distressed condition and they took him to the RSPCA. The RSPCA didn't actually expect him to make it. He was in such a bad way. And looking at him, you couldn't even tell he was a German Shepherd. He was that bad. So we went to the RSPCA, my son and I, and we happened to meet Bronson there, and we just both fell in love with him immediately. He wasn't a great looking dog, I must confess, but he just had the most wonderful eyes. And he was very friendly. After all he'd been through, he still loved people. And that to me was just amazing.
A lot of people think that if an animal hasn't found a home within a certain period of time, then they're going to be put to sleep or euthanized. Well, that simply isn't the case. We'll keep them for as long as it takes. Some animals have been with us for well over 100 days, and eventually they truly will find their forever home. Veterinarian Rebecca Stewart is one of the people who help injured and abused animals on a daily basis.
So when the animals come through to the Wacol campus, they're more than likely in a bit of a bad way, so they can come straight in through the ambulance from the side of the road. They can come in from an inspectorate siege, in terrible condition. So the first point of call is they come through the front doors here, and one of the veterinarians here sees them. They have a comprehensive medical workup, they have emergency care if it's required, and an individualised care plan is made up to get the best outcome for that animal. It gets quite busy. I think we're one of the busiest animal hospitals in Australia, and it can be a bit overwhelming but very rewarding as well. And everyone who works here is here for the right reasons, because we're passionate about animal welfare, and it's good to think that there's people with the same ideologies, I guess, for animal welfare, and that makes you sort of a bit happy that there's people out there that are just as passionate as you are, and they outweigh the nasty people, and that's how I like to think of it.
What you may not know is that the RSPCA in Queensland is the only state RSPCA that actively deals in native wildlife. And you know that old saying, build it and they'll come. Well, when we first built the Wildlife Hospital here about 3 years ago, we were dealing with 7,000 native animals a year. Well, now that number's jumped to over 18,000. Eventually, we're hoping that 100% of the animals that can be rehabilitated will be returned to the wild. Meanwhile, we continue to deal with animals and birds that are victims of habitat destruction, dog and cat attacks, and discarded fishing tackle. One of our most compassionate wildlife veterinarians is Liam Flanagan.
There's not a lot of difference between treating domestic animals and wildlife. The main thing is with the wildlife we have to make sure that they're going to be fit to be releasable. They've all got to go back into the wild. Some of them will spend time with a carer to do that, so they can go through a rehabilitation process, but they've got to be able to survive in the wild and be able to breed, otherwise we can't put them back. The donations we get through the Bequest program and our other fundraising programs allow us to practice the highest standard of medicine, regardless of the type of animal. If we have adequate funding, we don't have to be selective in the animals we can and can't treat. It allows us to basically treat any animal that we can treat and can be saved.
Hi, I'm Laurie, one of Queensland's RSPCA inspectors. Our role is to investigate animal negligence, cruelty, and also go out and rescue animals. One of our main roles is to educate people on how to look after their animals and also rescue wildlife.
Sadly, our inspectorate plays a hugely important role in the work we do. Our inspectors investigate a staggering 18,000 cases of animal cruelty and neglect each year. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't just find that disappointing. I find it really disturbing. And it was our inspectorate team that tracked down, investigated and prosecuted Bronson's original owners.
I believe that the previous owner had kept him in a tin shed with a dirt floor, so you can imagine what his condition was like, having to live like that. He had a lot of skin ailments. His fur was virtually non-existent and he just looked terrible. I mean, you wouldn't even recognise him as a German Shepherd, but with the treatment that the RSPCA gave him and the care that we gave him, we got him back to the way he should have been.
Without the RSPCA, Bronson would have died. He was, I spoke to several of the people that helped look after him on his initial entry to the RSPCA, and they said they used to leave, after nursing him, they used to leave the veterinary hospital in tears because they felt he wasn't going to make it. He was in such a bad way. So without the RSPCA's love and devotion to him, we would not have had the next 5 years with him.
As you can see here at the RSPCA, we really do look after all creatures, great and small. These are the livestock paddocks, and here you'll find everything from small calves, like you can see behind me, through to cattle, horses, pigs, sheep, ducks, chooks and goats. In fact, if you're ever in the market for a goat, I guarantee we'll always have a goat looking for a home. But let's look into the future. How are we actually going to be able to stamp out cruelty and neglect? There's no doubt it's going to be a long, hard road, and there's also no doubt that we can't do it without your help.
We decided on doing our wills a few years ago that the cause that was dearest to our heart was the RSPCA, and that they are such a worthwhile cause. It was a no-brainer. They need all the help they can get because they get very little government funding, and they do such a wonderful job and helping our animal friends, and I can't think of anything better.
Well, this is our adoption area, and as you'll see, we've tried to not only make it animal friendly, but also people friendly. And this is basically the last stop for animals like Bronson before they find their new home. As you can see, each pen has a description of the dog and the dog's particular personality. And as we move further down, you'll see that a lot of these pens have volunteers actually in the pens and interacting with the animals. Now this is hugely important in terms of socialisation. We couldn't exist without our volunteers. Without the volunteers, we simply couldn't cope. I know we've shown you a lot here today, but I really couldn't go without the opportunity of showing you our remembrance wall. And basically this wall celebrates the gift that you've left us in your will. And it's our way of not only saying that we're grateful, but also ensuring that your memory will live forever.
I would definitely encourage other people to leave a gift in their will, especially if you're an animal lover, and I think basically most people are. I think the RSPCA do a wonderful job and they deserve as much help as we can give them. My hope for leaving a gift to the RSPCA is that it will alleviate a lot of suffering that animals like Bronson have endured, and will ensure that animals in the future will not suffer the way our Bronson did.
It is my sincere hope that the gift in our wills to the RSPCA Queensland will help to ensure that the RSPCA Queensland can continue their very valued work. That would be my wish.
Well, I hope you enjoyed being part of the RSPCA Back-A-House tour. Certainly I'd like to take one more opportunity to thank you very much for being a great supporter of RSPCA and for considering being part of Bronson's wish and leaving a lasting legacy to the RSPCA. We could not do our work any day without that support and those lasting legacies. So thank you for considering it and being a long-term friend of the RSPCA here in Queensland.